Good morning, everyone. All right, first things first. Very bullish on ES to get new high of day. Like this is the clearest thing ever. It would be a little bit better if this dipped further, but anyways, we are flagging at the moment. So if you are looking for a trade that has pretty damn good odds, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Still on your stop loss, but ES looks great to clear new high of day because it did just barely miss this minor pivot here this morning. Um, so yeah, I mean this is just it's a small trade. I assume it's probably going to go much higher than high of day because NQ is not even up there yet. Um, but there's that. That's not part of this review, but that's like I hop on charts and that's what I see, so I just thought I'd share. But all right, I'm going to review this morning's trades. Was a fantastic way to start the day. I mean, every week, the last 3 weeks, how we ended the week was anything but spectacular. Last week, or last Friday, slight red, one green, one red, but the green trade chopped a bunch. So slight red. The week before that, break even. The week before that, barely green. Um, but the starts of the weeks have been fantastic. So we're going to get into that. Now, as far as the pre market analysis goes, there was pretty much none. If you hop on, and each of these yellow lines are my pivots, as you guys know. There's a couple of them. There's this one up here, two. This is more of like a 1 minute pivot. And I did end up deleting some of mine. But there's this one here. There's that. All right. I guess I'll mark this one too. I think I had this one marked this morning. There we go. So pre-market analysis. So I didn't really have a bias. If I had to choose, it would be slightly bullish just because of demand. How strong demand is and how we're kind of bouncing out of it. But aside from that, I missed this pivot. Aside from that, not much bias at all. Um, not much bias at all. I didn't really have any bias as far as the 15-minute was concerned. But if I drop down to the 1 minute, now we got some bias. And I didn't do this until pretty much right at market open, right before market open. We have a lot of potential pivots here. But if you look closely, we actually have a gap on the 1 minute here. Now, daily gaps are the important ones. This is only a gap seen on the 1 minute, so it's not very important. But futures, ES and NQ specifically, or especially not specifically, futures gaps are rare. They are very rare and they fill. If you have a gap on the futures chart that's not minuscule, and this one is not, document chart it out because gaps fill, right? I know ICT traders or a lot of fair value gap traders like to use fair value gaps and gaps as support. No, gaps fill, okay? And this is a gap. So once I drop to the 1 minute, this is my bias. And again, typically it's the daily gaps that matter a lot more, especially for stocks. You know, because stocks, they close all night. Futures only close for 1 hour a day, unless it's a Friday and the weekend. But otherwise, they close for 1 hour a day. So I am bullish for this gap to fill. And in case you don't understand how gaps work, this was the gap here, but then a lot of it filled, right? And now the gap is here. Got it? So I'm bullish for this gap to fill. Now, what's in the way of that gap, though? Well, we have here's the NQ gap. I'll zoom in so I can do this. What's in the way of that gap? Well, we got a lot of supply and some pivots. So do I think the gap is just going to fill right out of market open? No, not really. But if we start moving up, I'm going to have to get in because I'm bullish for the gap to fill. So that's my only bias. Now, keep in mind, it's not a major bias, though, because look, it's actually pretty far away from price action at the moment. It's not very close to it. But when the market opened, I had to wait to the close of the first candle. But yeah, I got to get into calls now because it looks like it's heading towards the gap. Do I know it's going to fill the gap? No. But that is a ton of momentum. It's barreling towards the gap. I have to be in. Now, if you look at the size of the candles, it looks like NQ is a lot larger of a candle than ES, and it looked a bit stronger. So that's why I hopped into QQQ calls, and NQ is a lot closer to filling the gap than ES is. So I entered QQQ calls here. I believe I filled at 78 cents, I believe it was. PT was the gap fill, but second price target will be ES gap fill because I'd expect NQ to fill its gap first. And look at the strength analysis. Beautiful. Look how much stronger NQ is than ES. Glorious. So NQ fills its gap. I didn't even sell any here, which is rare because I was up a lot. I didn't sell any here because ES needed to fill its gap. And it did. And here I started trimming. So gaps are filled. That bias is done. And we're up like over 100% at this point. Oh, I did not mean to. Yeah, I just wanted to remove this. And I had runners left only to the next pivot, though. And ES had a kind of a major pivot up here. And you're going to see it went a decent amount high. Look how strong NQ is. So beautiful. Look how beautiful. And then this is bullish consolidation on ES here, which is bullish, expecting a break to the upside. NQ is a lot stronger than ES, so if it's going up while ES is going sideways, what's NQ going to do when ES goes up? Probably go up even more. Boom. Sold all except a single QQQ runner here. And then I was out here on this candle. That is a supply rejection. That was enough to get me out. So that was beautiful. 164% or 167. It was pretty much 160% is what those calls got to. We were in right away, right when that first candle closed. And really the bias just came from that gap filling, which was absolutely glorious. So started out today with a huge bang. And if you notice, ES actually missed this pivot by a hair. Okay, missed this pivot by one tick. So I wasn't really planning on trading more today, but ES did just barely miss this pivot. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll get a decent trade. Here's ES making a lower low, which looks pretty nice. There it is, getting a beautiful buying wick. And there it is, invalidating majority of the move. All right, I'll take a light trade, you know. And it had to be a light trade because NQ not only rejected supply, but NQ's also on a pivot. I mean, it rejected this one, or swept this one. And you guys know me, I usually don't take continuation trades on pivots. But at this point, we have a clear strength divergence. ES is a lot stronger than NQ. It's made a lower low, and it validated a majority of the move. So it looks pretty good. Why wouldn't I just go half size, though? Well, the reason for that is the risk to reward freaking sucks. Technically, my PT's only new high of day, and my risk to reward would only be, my stop loss would be one candle away, and I don't like taking one candle trades, especially on options. So I went less than half size. I actually only went a third size. Because keep in mind, after that huge trade, I really didn't want to trade again. But this setup was plenty good enough to get me in. So I'm like, all right, I'll trade because I'm supposed to. Kind of like, I think it was on Thursday. We had a huge green day. And I didn't really want to trade more, but I got triggered into a trade. So I took it anyways, but a little bit lighter size. Because I didn't want to give back profit psychologically. And it ended up being a fantastic trade. Same thing here. But I can't average down on this trade because I save buying power to average down in case we get multiple oscillations. Plus, IQ doesn't look like it wants to go up towards new high of day anytime soon, so I'm kind of expecting it. I can only average down, which means if I average down, I'll still be less than a full size trade. I'll be roughly 2/3 size trade. I'll have roughly 2/3 of my normal size. I need a lower to low to average down. And if it were puts, I need a higher high. That's pretty much how that goes, or a bounce or something. This trade had so many red flags right out of the gate. First off, I filled my calls, my SPX calls at 2.9. On this candle, they dropped to 2.4. That is terrible. Why are my calls dropping almost 20% after a tiny red candle? No idea. Even when it hit back to green, it was only at 2.7. So huge red flag there. Calls are chopping like hell. That means a lot of people are selling them. We don't want people selling the calls because that means they probably don't think it's going to go up. And again, so I end up taking my average down on this candle at pretty much, I filled roughly at 2.0 and 2.05. I started filling when I was at the buying wick, but right as I filled, the buying wick went away. So I actually filled down here. My average was 2.45-ish. And after this candle closed, I'm like, oof, that was not supposed to happen. This is not supposed to happen. The hypothesis was bullish consolidation, and I averaged down when it makes a lower low in anticipation of bullish consolidation. If bullish consolidation isn't extremely likely, then I won't do that. But it was extremely likely here, but it didn't. It completely failed. So when this candle closed and the next candle opened, I stopped out of this trade at 1.85 here. Now this candle did close back pretty much at my average. I think it closed at like 2.9, 1.95 or something. So you could have got a better fill. But we had a huge red candle, and the next candle opened red and was a fairly large red candle as well. That's when I said to you guys, wow, I think we're going to invalidate the entire run. Right? Now keep in mind, it sucked taking a loss because, yeah, I was light size. But it was only, yes, I was light size, and it was only 25-ish percent loss, sorry. I was still very green on the day, but I wanted today to be 100% accuracy, but whatever, right? But now I have some action. I'm like, okay, now I have trades here. When we were at high day, I said pretty much the only other trade I can see myself taking until we missed that pivot, I did not expect it to happen, is if we invalidated the entire run, because then I can take it to the nearest buy side liquidity, which would be around demand. But now that this happened, if we go back up, I have to get back in calls. So if we get back up to here, I'm back in. It's a great trade if that happens. Otherwise, if we invalidate a majority of the drop, I'm going to have to hop into puts. Thought we were going to go back up, but we didn't. I called out this bearish consolidation here. This was bearish consolidation on the 5-second chart. This should look like a bear flag. Let's take a look. Yeah, there you go. It's almost like we know how to read a chart. So when you are making, don't mind this indicator. When you are making, when you're dumping and you have candles making higher highs and higher lows, that is a bear flag. So obviously I never look at the 5-second chart, but you can tell, hey, this is forming head and shoulders. Hey, this is forming a bear flag on that chart. So this is bearish, called it out. I didn't enter here though, because it's still, it still has a chance to go up in my opinion, right? It still has a chance. NQ isn't even at the 50% fib yet. Or it's not a fib. It hasn't even retraced 50% yet. It's still at 38.2%. If it holds 38.2%, then the uptrend is retained. But on this candle, I had to get in, and I did. I got a terrible fill, though. I got a buying week after I entered. But I filled QQQ puts. I accidentally filled SPX puts as well. And that was a mistake on my end this morning. I actually did want to fill SPX puts. But I filled both. I only alerted the QQQ puts, so I don't really know what I was thinking, to be honest. I think I was just distracted. But anyways, here's the trade. PT's pretty much this low. And I also drew it on ES as well, mostly because I was using ES as PTs. ES had demand in a much more reasonable place here. And when ES got to demand, NQ would also be in demand. Now, Grand PT is new low of day on NQ. I want this entire move erased, right? But we'll see what happens. I averaged up on this candle. It was only a small average up, but at this point I was in a full-size trade. I wasn't quite in a full-size trade yet, just because now we were bouncing off the 61.8 fib, and there was too much risk for it to bounce. But anyways, we did end up dumping, and my SPX calls, my SPX puts got like 30% at this point. The QQQ puts were up like 25, 30%. So trimmed heavily here. And at the bottom, I believe they were at roughly 50%. It was a pretty damn good trade. At least the SPX puts were. The QQQ puts were only up like 40-ish%. But I was bearish on this bounce, and I even told you guys I am expecting this bounce to invalidate. I am still bearish for new low of day on NQ, and I'm bearish for new low of day on ES, especially because if you look at this magical little perfect pivot indicator that I created, or I had developed, we have a lot of higher lows right here. This is a major level, and we barely missed it. So expecting this to break. Well, if you weren't in puts, that's a decent entry. And we ended up dumping because of PMI. So I held through PMI, Keep in mind, though, I trimmed most when ES was in demand and NQ was in demand as well on VWAP. And I got, like, again, 30 to 40% gains on average. But I did hold a decent amount through PMI, and it freaking dumped. This was glorious. So the puts that I alerted, the QQQ puts, those got 164% gains. The SPX puts, they got closer to 200. I think it was like 180 or 190. But again, I was literally only in 2 SPX contracts. I was not supposed to be in SPX. I just made a risk management error. But anyways, that was my last trade of the day. It was absolutely beautiful. And today was a great example of the famous Mark Douglas quote, which goes like, losses are nothing more than business expenses that make yourself available for the next winning trade. And this was that. Imagine if you don't have the psychological capacity to cut your red trades, like right here. This is a difficult one to cut because you're just coming off of a huge win and you're very proud of your P&L. And whenever you're proud of your P&L, typically people are more attached to it and you're less willing to lose it. So if you hit an all-time high in your account or hit an all-time high intraday P&L wise, and you take a red trade and it goes back down, that's hard to accept because you already idolized your P&L and you already idolize your account value. You don't want to see it drop. That's a trade that a lot of people won't be able to stop out of. But if you do stop out of it, take the chance on perfect psychology, and you do happen to be rewarded like I did, now you just reinforced that behavior, right? As I always talk about with psychological reinforcement. Now that you've reinforced that behavior, next time you're in this exact situation, what happened last time? You cut your trade and you were rewarded for it. It's going to be much easier to honor your stop loss next time. Whereas if you don't honor your stop loss and you keep averaging down or whatever and it happens to go green, what habit did you reinforce? You reinforce the habit of breaking your rules, and that's why you keep blowing accounts, right? You can't grow them consistently for more than a couple of weeks. So psychology is a very important aspect of my trading. It's really an important aspect of anyone who actually knows how to trading. But this morning, especially, this morning was a prime example of that right there. Losses are nothing more than business expenses that make yourself available for the next winning trade. So we had 2 green trades this morning going up to a max of roughly 170 something percent gains. It's the absolute max. Obviously, no one got that. You know, I only average roughly 100. I averaged like 120% on the first trade. That one I didn't sell until late, but the second one I might have averaged 100%, maybe, probably like 80 or 90. But regardless, a very, very green day with one small loss in between that was a flawless loss, perfectly managed, perfectly cut, and yeah, just a clean morning, all done in 30 minutes too. So fantastic, and it looked like we actually did pull back before this high of day. So this trade is still very valid. Now, if I were taking this on a futures trade and I had a very tight, if I were taking this on options, it would be half size, and this would have to be my average down. But if I were taking this on futures and I were looking for smaller scalp trades, I would have stopped out here and waiting to re-enter. Most likely I would have stopped out roughly here and I would re-enter at the exact same place. Maybe a little, you can get away with being a little bit lower, but still a great trade. Now, if you are in the NASDAQ, it looks like the NASDAQ actually flipped way stronger for some reason. So that's unlucky if you took ES or SPX. But this is interesting here. I wonder if NASDAQ's going to stay stronger. It looks like it is. So maybe this will be enough to get the NASDAQ to high of day. But if it's going to break to the upside, it's got to do it soon because it's disproportional. Like, this run was only from 7:01 my time to 7:35. That's a 34-minute run. And this consolidation has been from 7:35 to 8:32. Almost an hour of consolidation after a 30-minute run. That's not proportional. The odds aren't as good. If it were perfectly proportional or even a little bit less, so for example, if you had a 30-minute run and then 30-minute consolidation, even better 20 or 25 minutes before it breaks the upside, I would expect it's going to go all the way up to the pivot. But because it's been consolidating too long, twice as long as this run, there's a lot of sellers in. obviously. There's a lot of resistance. I'm kind of thinking NQ's maybe just going to sweep this level and then maybe head down. It could continue up, but the odds aren't as good. So keep that in mind as well. I'll be very precise with my entries. Only enter if it validates most of the drop again. And on your stops, because it looks like there may actually be a chance this breaks the upside with how shallow these bounces are getting on the NASDAQ. But all right, overall, that wraps up this morning's analysis. That is a perfect trend line, by the way, on NQ. So it might not break now, but I'm bearish for perfect trend lines to break. They pretty much always break. But does anyone have any questions regarding this morning's trades and analysis? Oh, everyone's good? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and post this on YouTube. I will let you guys know when it is uploaded. And yeah, busy schedule, guys. So that's why I'm just doing the lives in the mornings. And I will keep you guys updated from there. It looks like NQ is actually going to make a lower low here soon. But I will see you there, C-Clusion. But all right, if you guys need anything, you know where to find me. DM me, reach out in the comment section, whatever. And here's to hoping that tomorrow is just as green as today somehow. Today was a fantastic day, fantastic way to start the week. And hopefully it continues. But all right, I'll see you guys later. I'll keep you guys updated on when this recording is posted.